You might be wondering what the best turbo diesel engine is, and like all our other best of videos, it's very subjective. So here's my opinion and my take. It's based on my own experience. I've owned some of these engines. Members of our forum, family members and friends have also owned them, and I've been able to build up a fairly rounded out picture. But I would be really grateful to know your comments, especially if you disagree with me or you think that I've missed off an important diesel engine. Now, once again, we're going to be looking at fairly recent diesel engines, the sort of things that our viewers and our forum members would actually buy. The age range is going to be about 2005 to 2020, because that's the ballpark of where most people are at the moment. And it opens up quite a few different diesel engines. Some are really amazing powerhouses, others are just reliable daily workhorses. Depending on what your personal needs are, it'll depend on how you feel about each of the engines that I recommend. Some might be too performance oriented, and others might just be too economical or too low powered for you to consider. Now, because we've got a massive base of Volkswagen owners, I've got to really include a Volkswagen engine. And is it fair to do this? Well, Volkswagen have made extremely good diesel engines. I'm thinking particularly of the 1.9 TDI. That is often revered as one of the best diesel engines in the world. Let me know if you agree with that statement or not. Early engines had the VE pump system, and they produced between 90 to 115 horsepower. You typically find them in your Volkswagen Golf, your Audi A3, the early models, and they offered really good fuel economy, superb reliability. You really can't fault them when it comes to reliability. The later PD, the Pumperducer versions, covered the years 2000 to 2006, and they upped the power to a headline power figure of about 150. Now, a friend of mine had one of these. He had it remapped to about 180, 185, and it was phenomenal. It was really quick. It outperformed a 2-litre TDI engine. It was more economical. He would often get high 60 mpg from it. It did cook the turbo though. It may be down to the fact that he mapped it himself and he didn't take into account all the nuances of tuning a turbo engine. I think he had the turbo coming on far too soon in the RPM range, so it never really achieved a proper cool down. I also have to mention the 2-litre TDI. I've had one of those. I had the early BKD. That was a PD version. It was 2007. Now, personally, I would avoid 2-litre TDI engines during the emissions scandal era, which was about 2008 to about 2012, 2013. Those engines were dogged by the emissions scandal. There was a hot fix that was issued. We've had lots of complaints about the particulate filters fitted to vehicles during that era and other problems. Although the 2-litre TDI is a really good solid engine, there were some years that really damaged its reputation. The latest Gen 3 engines are superb. They've ironed out most of the problems. The particulate filter now comes before it goes through the EGR, which minimises the soot build-up. There's various other little clever methods they've used. Check out the videos I've done on the 2-litre TDI models to just get your head round all the different nuances and the different versions. But they are good solid engines as well. Volkswagen Group have a pretty good showing, but that 1.9 TDI sparkles. Most people hold that up as one of the best turbo diesel engines out there. We've got to include a BMW engine as well. And I really have to mention the BMW 3-litre M57, and it was later succeeded by the N57. This was a superb powerhouse. They put it in the 330D. With a remap, you would have a diesel engine that would outperform the performance M variants of these cars. The M57 in stock form put out a 286 horsepower. The N57 actually came with a tri-turbo variant, putting out 381 horsepower. And with remaps, you can easily add 20 to 40% more power to these engines and they can cope with it. It was a phenomenal performance diesel engine. It was very reliable. It was silky smooth. It felt like the power came on instantaneously. It was just superb fun to drive. Let me know what your experience has been with BMW turbo diesel engines. They've done a lot and they've done some really good engines. But for me, that's the standout one. That's the one that I'm going to include in this list. Let me know what you would include in this list. The Peugeot Citroën, the PSA group from France, have some pretty good diesel engines. They've been producing diesel engines over a long period of time. They were all badged as the HDI, And the earliest experience I ever had of a turbo diesel engine that was high performance was the 2.2 HDI. We're talking about recent turbo diesel engines, so we're going to focus on the 2-litre HDI. I believe that was the DW10, and you have the DW10A to F variants. Most people would recommend the 163 horsepower and the blue HDI 180 horsepower. They just offer so much power, so much economy, and they're really good luggers. You can see why fleets often chose these. And it wasn't just Peugeot and Citroën that used them. You'd also find them in Fords and Volvo models over the years. I also need to include a Mercedes-Benz engine, the OM651, usually badged as the 2.1 litre CDI. It boasted chain-driven cams, variable geometry turbochargers, and piezo injectors. And it replaced the earlier OM646, which was also a very good diesel engine. And they'd strengthened it. They'd built on that solid base and produced a fantastic, reliable, solid, well-performing diesel engine. It was fitted to the C220 CDI, the E250 CDI, and quite a few other Mercedes variants over the years. Fiat engines also figure quite high in a lot of people's recommendations. We really need to look at the 1.9 JTDM and the 2-litre Multijet 2. The 1.9 engine put out a very respectable 190 horsepower and did this reliably without effort. The later variant pushed the power up to 200 horsepower. And you'd find this in Alfa Romeo. Now, if Alfa Romeo choose an engine, they really choose an engine carefully. They've got a thoroughbred racing reputation that they need to maintain, and they chose this engine. We also see them fitted in Jeeps. They offer so much torque, they're reliable, and they're often overlooked when people are looking for superb turbo diesel engines. Now we come to Volvo. It's their turn, and they've turned out some fantastic, reliable powerhouses over the years. Is it fair to say that Volvo engines aren't particularly performance oriented? They tend to go more for reliability, but that does build in a bit of leeway. If you wanted to tune it and map it, add other extras, you've got a much more solid base to work from. So perhaps the potential for upgrades on these engines is slightly higher than on some of the other diesel engines we've mentioned, where the manufacturers have already wrung out as much power as they can. The D5, we're focusing on the Euro 4 and the Euro 5 versions of this engine for these years. Early ones put out about 185 horsepower. The Euro 5 engines put out about 215 horsepower. And you'd find them in the S60, the V70 and the XC90, quite a big variety of vehicles. And it was a really good solid performer, offered loads of torque, good reliability, decent fuel economy, and it really does deserve a place in this list of best diesel engines. Now Ford, it's fair to say they needed a bit of help to produce a superb diesel engine, so they went to Peugeot, the PSA group, and they came up with the 2-litre TDCI, the Panther, the DW10 engine. By 2016, Ford had really made this design their own. They'd fettled it, they'd tuned it. Power output was 140 to 190 horsepower. Fuel economy was decent. You'd find it in the Mondeo, the Ford Galaxy, and the family S-Max as well. It was a really good engine and offered great flexibility in all these different body styles. Now we move on to another French company, Renault. What were their standout diesel engines? Again, they've had a long reputation of producing diesel engines over the years. And we're looking at the 1.5 DCI. The engine code on that was K9K. Now, up to about 2010, there were a lot of documented problems, particularly injector and turbo issues, but they do seem to have sorted that out. So if I was buying one of these, I would focus on after 2010 model engine. I would go for one with the Bosch injection system. They put out about 110 to 115 horsepower, and they'd be used in family cars like the Clio, Dacia Duster, and the Renault Captur. Brilliant for city driving, very refined, very economical, and a decent amount of power for an engine of that size. I should mention also an Audi engine. We've got the 3-litre turbo diesel. Now, this is a phenomenal engine. It's a powerhouse when it comes to engines. We've got to be careful what engine codes we go to and what years. There were documented problems with oil pressure being too low in some cases, and some other issues over the years. So do your research carefully if you're looking to buy one of these. But the BMK ASB versions and the CDUC and CREC are good examples of this engine. Power range from 224 horsepower to 286 horsepower, and it'd be fitted in the larger cars. Obviously it needed quite a large engine bay. You'll see them typically in the A6, the A7 and the Q7. Phenomenal levels of torque. There's a lot you can do to these engines to up the power even further, maintaining the reliability, and in a lot of cases boosting the fuel economy. Just remapping or changing the tune inside the ECU will really unlock a lot of hidden power and potential from these engines. But do service them ultra regularly, shorten those service intervals, keep on top of problems as they develop, don't let them evolve into larger problems. The 3-litre TDI is quite a complex engine and does require a little bit of extra care and attention to keep it reliable. I feel I should have included a lot of other engines in this. Honda did a diesel engine, the 1.6 CDTI. There was also a 1.6 TDI from the Volkswagen group, and the PSA group also had a 1.6 HDI, but I'll be honest, I don't know a great deal about these engines. I don't have much experience with them. So please let me know what your take is on these engines. And if I've missed any others out, what deserves to be in this list of the 10 greatest turbo diesel engines of all time. Thanks for watching. Please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. That really does help us as well with the algorithm when it sees people subscribing. And you'll also be updated of the great content we've got as it's released. And I've lined this video and this playlist up for you that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.